This is The Joe Gaither Show on BamaCentral.com.
Good afternoon, Tuscaloosa, Internet World, West Alabama. How are you doing on this Monday? Oh my goodness, the tournament is here. Big Dance is here. Welcome in. It's Monday, March 18th. It is the Joe Gaither Show on BamaCentral and BamaCentral.com. You're listening to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or on Amazon. You're watching us on Facebook, on Twitter, or on YouTube, on the BamaCentral YouTube channel. You hopefully subscribe to that BamaCentral YouTube channel. You can see our Inside the Locker Room interviews with the players from this past weekend at the SEC Tournament and much, much more right there at the BamaCentral YouTube channel. And you can find myself anywhere you want to find me at Joe Gaither 6 on all your social media machines. We're going to have a fun show today. We're going to have a lot to talk about, a ton to talk about. The last time you heard from me, I was in a little corner of the inside the bowels of the Bridgestone Arena waiting for Alabama to play Florida. And at that time, oh my gosh, at that time, Tennessee had just lost. Kentucky was about to play, and everything was kind of sitting right out there in front of everything for Alabama. So we're going to talk about the Alabama-Florida game. Alabama obviously losing to Florida. My overall SEC tournament thoughts today. We're going to talk about the NCAA tournament draw. Alabama earning a number 4 seed, going out to Spokane, Washington in the West region. We'll talk about that. How far we think Alabama can go. How far do you think Alabama can go? Be sure to leave that in the comments on Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube at Joe Gaither 6. Let us know how far you think the Crimson Tide can go in the NCAA tournament. We'll talk about the SEC's draw as a whole. I want to talk about Nate Oats' contract, really the micro of this season and the macro of the entire basketball program as a whole with Nate Oats' contract. We want to invite you to participate in our bracket challenge, the BamaCentral bracket challenge. You can find it pinned to my Twitter and to my Facebook at Joe Gaither 6. You can click on it, and we invite you to join the BamaCentral Broadcasting Network Challenge. Myself, Katie Wendon, Blake Byler, everybody at the who's who of BamaCentral will participate. We'll see how you stack up with the members of BamaCentral. And we want to touch on the women's bracket. Alabama women back to the big dance for the second year in a row. We'll hit on that in just a little bit. We're back to spring football. Spring break is over. Last week is done. The boys are back on the practice field. I got 2 sides of spring football, 2 topics. Spring football I want to talk about. And then I just want to talk about the stadium, Coleman Coliseum, the arena. Everybody's been kind of bringing up Nate Oats' contract of the weekend and how it relates to the new arena. And I had maybe a little bit of an experience this weekend that I think might be reframing my desires for a new basketball arena for the Crimson Tide. So with all that being said, that's what we're going to talk about today. You're invited to join us in the comments. You can direct us where you want. Send me your comments, questions, queries, and complaints at Joe Gaither 6. And let's start with the loss on Friday night. Oh my gosh. Friday happens and you think everything's breaking your way. I'm sitting there right there enjoying Texas A&M and Kentucky, and it was incredible. It was an incredible experience watching Texas A&M battle Big Blue Nation right there in front of me. We got to thank the SEC basically putting us right there on courtside, and Kentucky loses, and everything's like, oh my gosh, it's right there in front of you. You're the top seed, Alabama. You are the prohibitive favorite in the tournament. And I know I got a lot of backlash on the social media machine for saying that, but yeah, Alabama was the prohibitive favorite. You're the top remaining seed, not to be. The Crimson Tide taking on Florida, looking for a win in the rubber match, losing 102, 102 to 88, giving up another 100 points to the Florida Gators. And what was it? It was a carbon copy, almost more or less, of the game down there in Gainesville. Look, Alabama came out on fire. And I look at my buddy Blake Byler and Katie Wendham, and I'm saying, okay, we might be in for a long weekend. The Crimson Tide might have flipped the switch. All the rest that we had talked about after the Arkansas game, getting the double bye, not playing till Friday, might have paid off. Oh, well, Todd Golden calls timeout, and slowly but surely Florida digs back into the game. And look, here's my problem with this year's Alabama basketball team. Do I love covering them? Do I love being a part of the coverage for BamaCentral? Oh, absolutely. Has Has it been a fun basketball team? Sometimes it's been fun, but the frustrating aspect, and we'll get into it with the macro versus micro conversation for this year's for the basketball program, is the fact that whenever they've taken a punch against a quality opponent, you've seen it, 4 or 5 times now on the year, at Tennessee, at Auburn, at Kentucky. You go down to Gainesville, and this was the SEC tournament. So what? This was the 5th time, right? The 5th time that they've taken a real punch from a quality opponent. When have they responded? And you get they came back on the road against Ole Miss. They came back on the road against Georgia. But look at where Georgia and Ole Miss are today. Ole Miss declining an NIT bid. Georgia going to the NIT. These are not the programs that you're holding your standards up against. Look, Alabama has not responded to taking punches really the entire year. And what was the punch? Look, Florida started to dig in. They basically put a copy of their game plan from down there in Gainesville, letting Alabama kind of make or miss at the rim, guarding the three-point line pretty well, only allowing 23, 24 three-point shots on the day. Florida really dominated inside, and it just became a snowball effect. And what was it? The biggest point of the game, the big turnover in the game was at 6:21. Mark Sears. We've talked about turnovers all year long right here on this show. Mark Sears with 4 turnovers in the game. And is that number horrendous? No, but it's not necessarily good either. You had the big turnover at 6:21. Alabama still got the lead in the first half. Yeah, Florida's been digging, but it's 27-23. You got a 4-point lead. You've just had back-to-back made buckets. Latrell Wrightsell just saw the ball go in for the first time in the night. And you're, still fighting, still hanging in there. And as soon as you come up the court, Mark Sears turns it over, throws it right to who? Zion Pullen, I think it was. And Zion Pullen puts it in for an easy layup. And from there, Florida goes on a 25-6 run to close the half. The last 6 minutes, they go 17-0 for a period in this moment. And you do get the Nate Oats timeout. And so thankfully, he tries to slow down the run, but really you don't have anything offensively because you can't get anything going at the rim, and you're trying to turn the basketball over and you're missing shots. And a lot of people miss shots in Bridgestone Arena. It really was an inside man's game, as you saw with Auburn winning the whole dang tournament with probably the best inside game in the league. Johni Broome is probably the best inside man in the league, and he's got plenty of help with Chad Baker-Mazara and Jalen Williams as well. So they've got a good inside game. It basically became, who can pound it inside the lane? Alabama just couldn't do that. And so, here's my biggest issue is, where is the fight for this basketball team? You go out to Canada and you play a close game with Purdue, and you really, okay, we're hanging in there. You go out to Arizona, you play a close game with Arizona. Okay, you're hanging in there. All right. You play at Creighton, and you're hanging in there. Okay, great. But basically, ever since then, you have beaten the teams that you're supposed to beat, which is great. Look, the program is in great shape. It's great. You're beating the teams that you're supposed to beat, but these teams that are just above you, you're right there at 15, 16, 17, and depending on what poll you're looking at. I think they finished 19th in today's AP poll from my friend Blake Byler. You're sitting there in the top 20, but you can't get over the hump and beat that top 10 team, beat that top 15 team on a consistent basis, because you don't have the internal fortitude. Something that struck me in the middle of the game. Alabama is losing, obviously, as the second half is kind of getting going, and Nate Oats is just begging, please come up, press, and no one is responding. I don't want to say that you've lost anything in the locker room, but I just wonder what the motivation level is to soak up these last couple of weeks. You think about the draw, and we'll get into that in a little bit, the NCAA tournament draw. It's all going to be about Alabama. Something that was interesting to me from Grant Nelson in the post-game press conference, post-game locker room. And you can see it on BamaCentral's YouTube channel to really kind of hear him say it in his own words if you want to. But basically, I asked him, what's the deal with the defensive issues? We've heard defensive issues all year. We've heard, we just got to get better on the defensive end. Is it just effort, or is there what is it? And Grant essentially says that we as in the players, we have to get to a point where we can call each other out and hold each other accountable and basically realize that it's not from a malicious point of view, that it's not a, hey man, I hate you, you're not getting back on defense. It's a, hey, get back on defense, we need you. It's a teammate thing. It's basically kind of what he was saying. It's not coming from a bad place, but from a teammate standpoint. And that just struck me. Who is the leader? Who is the internal? Like, of course, you see Nate Oats on the sidelines begging to play defense, and you see the three assistant coaches all looking at each other like, oh my gosh, we don't have an answer either. Who is the inside? Who's the player in the huddle who's rallying everybody? And do you have more than one of them? I don't know that you really have had that with this year's team. I mean, it's been a great offense. It's been a lot of fun to watch on the offensive end. But when things are snowballing out of control, who is stamping their foot down and saying, we're getting a defensive stop on this possession here, and then we're going to go down the floor and get a quality basket? Look, I'm not really here to cry about makes and misses, because a lot of the times if you're taking good shots, then you can live with makes and misses. The issue with me for this Alabama team is effort, consistency and effort. It's not so much about talent and skill, because the talent and skill is there, and you've seen and really liked the way that the offense has gelled together, considering all the the misfit parts that you basically had to deal with in the offseason to get everything together. It's just the consistency and the effort. And so as you look back on the SEC tournament and you look at the Florida loss, was Florida good? Absolutely. Florida earned it. They played their tail off. They played as hard as they could from start to finish. Well, not the first 4 minutes, from about the 16-minute mark in the first half all the way on. So what's that? 36 minutes, the last 36 minutes of the game. Alabama just seems to, we got punched in the face, we're going to go into a shell here. We're getting punched in the gut, we're going to go into a little bit of shell here. And so that's been where the source of the frustration has been, covering this basketball team, watching this basketball team this year, and wondering how far they're going to go this year. Just a couple of other things on the basketball game, the actual game. Ryland got back into the fold, and you kind of wondered and thought, okay, you get everybody back to full strength. Ryland played 19 minutes, but after the game, he said, I didn't really practice that much during this week. This was kind of like one of the first few times that I've gone full go. And he had 7 points? Great, good for you. But you were 2 for 7 from the field. You were 1 for 5 from the 3-point line. And it's just like, oh man. Now, you don't want to blame it all on Ryland. Nobody shot well from the 3-point line. Mark Sears was 0 for 4, right? Latrell Reitzel didn't make one from behind the line. Sam Walters, good for him, 2 for 4. But no one was really that good from deep. But Ryland I wondered to myself, if you don't play him through the week, if he's not practicing through the week, I wonder, 19 minutes just seems like a little lot, a little bit much. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more, and now this is just a personal preference, a little bit more Mohamed Diabate. You get 3 minutes out of Mohamed Diabate, doesn't record a single stat. Now he's 0 for 3. Now he's -3 in the stat sheet. But goodness gracious, you got a guy who's giving you consistent effort, giving you a lot of high energy. I know the offensive skill is not always, it's not as good as the other guys on the floor, but you're lacking in energy, you're lacking in effort, you're lacking in maybe consistent want to. Obviously, there's things going on behind the scenes. There's practice, things happening at practice that I'm not privy to. I just would have liked to have seen maybe a little more Mohamed Diabate in the game. I did think it was a carbon copy of the game down there in Gainesville. Obviously, Florida didn't get to the line 46 times. They got to the line 36 times. Did a little bit better playing without fouling. But you battled on the boards the first little bit, and then Florida slowly, basically ate you up inside with Tyrese Samuel. I mean, a lot of the attention's going to go to Walter Clayton Jr., and it should. It was his third game against Alabama where he went over 20 points. But Tyrese Samuel basically owned the interior, especially during the points of the game where Florida's pulling away, where they were getting easy buckets. He's 7 of 14 from the field, right there on the inside. He got to the free throw line 4 times. He was 4 for 4. Look, Florida, 31 of 36 from the free throw line. That's an incredible percentage, but you're putting them on the line way too much. You got to. Now, a lot of that is credit to Florida taking it to the rack and being aggressive. I don't know that Alabama Alabama didn't get to the free throw line in the first half until couple minutes left in the first half. It took a long time for Alabama to get to the line. And so that's just an area that I think Alabama needs to improve on. You've seen that kind of become maybe a bit of a detriment over the last couple of weeks. Alabama, what's that, their fourth loss, 4 out of the last 7 or so? So, look, all you could do is move on, and move on is what we're gonna do. We're gonna talk about the NCAA tournament pod, but first I want to talk about the tournament as a whole, the experience, Nashville, everything that I saw, everything that I experienced. It was the first time for me at the event. The last couple of years in media, I've been a home base guy, and so it was my first time at the event. And I gotta say, I was blown away. I was impressed. Now look, I'm a big pageantry and feeling and school spirit kind of a guy anyways. And so to step into the arena the first time, to have Mississippi State and Tennessee playing on that Friday, and to see just all the colors, orange, maroon, crimson, blue, all over the place, everybody kind of cheering one way or the other based on if the school that's on the floor is their rival or not, or if it will help their school or not. It was just very interesting and kind of amazing to see all the fan bases descend on Nashville. And now, obviously, we were only there from myself Thursday till Saturday morning. So you got 2 nights out in the city, and it was beautiful. It was a great time to be there. Obviously, it was really a great experience to be out in the city and to mingle with the other fan bases. I would put it on your bucket list if it's something you've thought about. Obviously, 2 years ago when Alabama won the tournament, the Crimson Tide took over Bridgestone Arena on that Sunday, and it seemed like Auburn did that on Sunday, winning their tournament yesterday. Look, I know it's the rival, it's Alabama's biggest rival, but Auburn played their tail off, and they played a great tournament. Now, did they get officiated a little bit favorably because they are very, very aggressive? I think so, but they played their tail off. They played smart. They played inside out. They played through their big man. And most importantly for Auburn, they played with maximum effort. There was never a time that Auburn was on my TV or that Auburn was on the floor in front of me where I thought that team's not playing hard. I mean, you've heard Bruce Pearl through the season. We made fun of him a little bit earlier in the season, talking about some of our players don't need to shoot as much, and we got players on the field on the court shooting too much. But what they have and what they're lacking in shot making, what they make and miss, it comes and goes. What doesn't come and go for Auburn is their effort. And so it manifests into an SEC tournament title, and you congratulate them on the other side of the state. It kind of stinks watching everything, but look, it's just proof that the state of Alabama is very, very, very healthy in basketball, obviously with UAB and Samford making the tournament as well. 4 teams from the state going to the NCAA tournament, with Auburn basically kind of taking the big crown with the SEC tournament title, and you send them congratulations. It stinks. Maybe Alabama can we'll keep swapping it every other year back and forth with tournament titles. That would be that'd be awesome for the state, and I guess the rest of the conference would get jealous of Alabama. Now let's talk about the NCAA tournament draw, because we're moving forward for Alabama. The next thing's the next thing. You got one life to live, and you're playing on Friday. Your life is on the line on Friday. You've got Charleston. You're going to Spokane, Washington. First things first, Spokane, Washington. NCAA Tournament Committee had, I don't know, they were doing some crazy things yesterday as the field was unfolding. Most notably, in my opinion, Texas A&M and Nebraska playing in the first round in both the men's and the women's NCAA tournament draw. You got some real kind of spicy draw, some spicy storylines there. But Spokane, Washington. All right, look, you got a huge contrast. Last year was amazing. Last year was a lot of fun. Alabama and Auburn went to Birmingham, and it was an incredible weekend watching Alabama and Auburn both get both advanced to the Sweet 16. Now, we went to Louisville the next weekend, and that was a lot of fun as well. And it was not a crazy pathway or not a crazy drive. It was Louisville straight up, what is that, 65, right? Spokane, Washington, what the heck? You've got 3 teams in the state, UAB, Auburn, and Alabama, all going to Spokane, Washington. Our man Blake Byler is going to be going over there, and we appreciate Blake for hopping on a plane. It's a 30-something hour drive. If you want to make the drive, 30-something hours in the car. Flights are expensive. It's going to be tough to get there. And so while you balance, last year was super awesome. Last year was incredible having the event right here in our state. Really, really brutal. Now, and especially for Auburn. And I'm going to say that because really brutal for Auburn in two facets. Look, Alabama faded through the back half of this, through the last month of the year. Alabama's last month of the year was riddled with injury, Latrell Wrightsell and Ryland Griffin. It was riddled with road blowouts at Tennessee, at Kentucky, and at Florida. It was not really that good. So they faded. They were on the 3 line. They were flirting with the 2 line, and they faded to the 4. Now, Alabama's draw is really, really good, I think, as far as on the court. But as far as sending Alabama themselves, the University of Alabama, to Spokane, you kind of get what you get and you don't pitch a fit. I'm sorry. That's kind of the way it works if you fade that way down the stretch, in my opinion. Now, for Auburn, they did the exact opposite. Auburn is peaking. Auburn is peaking down the stretch of the season. Now, they didn't win the SEC regular season due to kind of losses down the stretch, but they played very, very well, and it culminated with this past weekend. And if you want to give Auburn the 4 seed, okay, that's fine. I don't agree with it. I think that's a bit underseeded. Okay, but if you want to give them the 4 seed, fine. You don't throw them in the same bracket with UConn. But you don't throw them in the same bracket with UConn, and you don't throw them all the way to Spokane, Washington. Now, some of that is just the way that regionals work and politics go. Look, you look at the rest of the 4 line. Isn't Duke on the 4 line as well? So, of course, Duke's going to go up to Brooklyn. Look, imagine getting that ticket. UConn and Duke in the same little pod. It's going to be crazy up there in Washington with UAB, Alabama, and Auburn. But I imagine, I guess, if you've already cleared the threshold of the travel, the ticket prices are not going to be that much. You've gotten into a select club, I'm sure, if you've cleared the travel threshold. And we wish you luck. I'm not going to be there just because of the distance. I wish I were. We're sending Blake Byler, and Blake, we wish you great luck getting out there and being safe. It's going to be a long flight, my man, but we appreciate Blake Byler going to be covering it all for us at BamaCentral.com. Make sure you follow him at Blake Byler 45. Now, as far as the actual basketball couldn't have broken any better, honestly. Well, you think about trends, and Charleston is trending up while Alabama's trending down, but on the floor, look, how bad, what has Alabama done against mid-majors all year long? Alabama has blown mid-majors out of the water. And so I don't know that you're going to have too much of I think it's going to be an up and down ball game as Charleston is one of the better scoring teams in the country, 80-something points a game as I'm losing my tab right there. Yeah, 80 and a half points a game, tied for 41st in the country. But as far as KenPom goes, Charleston is 98 in KenPom, 58th in adjusted offense. So they're averaging 113 points per 100 possessions, and they're 176 in adjusted defense. So pretty bad on adjusted defense. Now, their strength of schedule adjusted metric is 225. So they haven't really played a whole lot of competition. Now, if you look at their metrics over the last couple of weeks, they are trending upwards and have been playing better basketball than Alabama. But let's just be honest with ourselves. They're playing in the CAA, which is the Colonial Athletic League, I think is what it is. But playing much worse competition. I think Alabama is going to have a pretty. I hate saying this just because of the way it's been so hard to trust the Crimson Tide. But I think Alabama is going to have a pretty good little win, easy little win. I think they're going to get to 100 points, and it's going to be something like 100 to 70 or something like that, 175, 100 to 85, right in that range. So you're going to live comfortably. I think Alabama is a 9.5-point favorite. You're going to cover that line. If I'm a betting man, you're going to cover that line on Friday night. And what does that do going forward? You get a win against a mid-major team. When was the last time Alabama had a win against a mid-major team this past season? Let me pull up our schedule. Was it Liberty? That's what's coming off to my head. You beat Liberty pretty good over there in the BJCC. Yeah, let's see. In the CM Newton Classic as the RollTide.com loads, because it is the worst interface since they changed companies. Oh my gosh. And it's not just RollTide.com. It's every college athletics site that you go to is horribly loaded. All right. So in the CM Newton Classic, Alabama beat Liberty 101-56. And then they went from there to reel off 4 straight games in a row before losing to Tennessee. Would you like to win 4 games in the tournament? or at least two. Come on, 2 games in the tournament before playing number 1 seed North Carolina. I think a big win against Charleston. Oh my gosh. Now it might just be my gunk gland tweaking right here. I think a big win against Charleston could propel this team, could remind this team what they're capable of, and send them into the Sweet 16 as they'll be playing the winner of Grand Canyon and St. Mary's. Now, the KenPom rankings, so St. Mary's as the 5 seed, 20 overall, 45 in offense, 16 in defense, just enough of the recipe that could beat you, Alabama, really and truly. And then Grand Canyon, 53 overall in KenPom, 63rd in offense, and 51st in defense. Playing out there in the West Coast, Grand Canyon and St. Mary's going to have probably the most notable fan bases there, just as far as proximity. And they're popular upset picks for Alabama. I'll just let you see outside of the Crimson Tide bubble, it is a popular upset pick. Charleston, not so much, but Grand Canyon and St. Mary's, whichever one that you were picking in that first round, I'm picking. I think I'm going to pick Grand Canyon just for the fun of it, but St. Mary's is probably going to win. But that's a popular upset second round pick. And so you just got to be aware of that from an Alabama perspective. Not a great deal of faith outside of the Crimson Tide fan base for Alabama getting to the Sweet 16. But my man Blake Byler is going to write a piece later in the week that you're going to want to pay attention to, outlining how difficult it is going to be to prepare for Alabama in just a short stretch. So whoever it is, St. Mary's or Grand Canyon, they're going to have just a day and a half to prepare for Alabama. It's going to go Friday. You'll get Saturday off, and ideally, Alabama, if they win, if they take care of the business against the College of Charleston, is going to play on Sunday to get to the Sweet 16. From there, all bets are off. The bracket is crazy because you're paired up with North Carolina, right? You're paired up with North Carolina. You're paired up with Mississippi State as well. Mississippi State and Michigan State. I think Mississippi State, the SEC squad beats Michigan State. They barely got into the tournament. And then I think North Carolina is going to take care of our SEC brethren. And do you like the draw Alabama against? I mean, look, North Carolina was the last 1 seed in the tournament. I think if you get through the St. Mary's bracket, do I like your odds of getting to the Elite Eight? I think it's better than it would be if you're playing against Purdue, or if you're playing against UConn, if you're playing against who's the other one seed? Houston. Yeah, it would be much better against North Carolina than if you're matched up against Houston, Purdue, or UConn. So you roll your dice with this. At this point, you're happy with where you are. You just roll your dice and you see where you go from here. All right, so that brings us to macro versus micro for this Alabama season. And we've hit on a lot of these topics already. But Nate Oats and his new contract, he basically agreed to the new contract extension last weekend. It's going to keep him in Tuscaloosa. It was announced, hour and a half before the ball game against Florida, and Florida promptly decimated Alabama, and that looked like a little bit of egg on your face, Greg Byrne and Nate Oats, just a little bit, maybe for the simple-minded people. I think the extension is a great thing. The extension is a great thing, and it is a sign of Nate Oats at demand. Obviously, if you're not paying attention to the college basketball world, Michigan fired their coach, fired Juwan Howard. Indiana has said that they're keeping Mike Woodson, but that still kind of seems like a little bit of a gray area. Louisville fired their coach, and you never know what's going to happen with Tom Izzo in Michigan State. Is this going to be his last run, or is he going to be, one more year and done? You basically got out in front of the Michigan crowd. Nate Oats, Romulus High School up there in Michigan. That's kind of where his roots are from. So you basically keep Michigan away by getting the extension done, and you hear a mixture crowd. Oh, boo, boo, boo! You lose on Friday night. Oh, boo, boo, boo! You've only got to the Sweet 16. You haven't. Okay, all right. Nate Oats, the last 5, he's finishing his 5th year right now. He's finishing his 5th year. You've gotten to 4 NCAA tournaments in a row. You've won 4 SEC championships in the last 5 years. The last 5 years, you're recruiting at an extremely high level. You've got 2 McDonald's All-Americans coming into the program next year. And really, depending on roster turnover, you might have a lot of continuity, a lot of things to build off of. Everybody who's frustrated, and I think that in the micro, that there is room to be frustrated. you can be frustrated with the way that this season has gone, just from the standpoint of lack of growth and maybe a little bit of a lack of improvement from January, especially on the defensive side of the ball. But really, in the macro, the huge outside perspective, we all know this. We've done this before. You lost 3 assistant coaches. You brought in 9 new scholarship players. You basically got an island of misfit. You went out to the transfer portal and you got the island of misfit toys. Look, are these guys good players? Yeah, but do they fit perfectly well together? Not necessarily. You've seen the personnel problems on this team. Oh man, the center that you got to replace your 7-footer who went to the G League late, has a busted foot and has barely played. Now, is that Muhammad Wagi's fault? No, but it just is what it is. You've got an immobile man in the middle, and so you replace him with who? Grant Nelson. Oh, Grant, you're supposed to be a 4. Now we're playing you at the 5, and everybody's upset because you're fouling out because you're playing against guys who are, a lot heavier than you are and a lot more experience playing in the post than you are. Come on now. There's a bit of growth here and grace here for this team. I think we heard it with Coach Wim Sanderson last week, and we appreciate him joining us last week. If you missed Coach Sanderson's interview, you can hear it on all the platforms. But Coach Sanderson basically outlined how healthy the program is right now. You've got a 4 seed, right? A 4 seed in a down year. A 4 seed in a down with quotation marks in a down year. And you're sitting here all disappointed. I think Alabama basketball fans need to realize how far the program has come under Nate Oats. And really, while, I do think it's like a small possibility Alabama could lose to Charleston in the first round. And I think it's a larger possibility that Alabama could lose to St. Mary's and or Grand Canyon in the second round. More so due to Alabama's lack of internal toughness than the other team's skill. But you combine all the factors, I think that, this team can go all the way to the Final Four, or it can be out in the first round. Does that mean that Nate Oats is a success or failure? Either way, no. I think the success is evident, is easy to see with the consistency, the raised level of consistency, the raised level of expectations, and really delivering upon those expectations. Coach Oats will be the first to tell you. You ask him in a private moment, I bet you he'll be the first to tell you we should have won the SEC tournament this year, played better in the SEC tournament, especially with the way Kentucky and Tennessee went out early. I think he would have told you. I mean, he basically did tell you at the podium, if we had Latrell Wrightsell, we should have won the SEC championship, the regular season championship. Look, you've got circumstances that the program has dealt with over the last year with the roster turnover and coaching turnover and really just integrating a brand new team and playing one of the toughest schedules in the country. You combine all that together with, you're disappointed with the way the season went. And I think there's room for that. Absolutely. I'm driving back from Nashville on Saturday thinking, daggum, I should be covering a game today. I should be covering semifinal Saturday. But no, it's just the way the game goes. Right now, the Alabama basketball program is as healthy as it has been basically since I was an adolescent. And so you got to think about where you've been and think about where you are. I think that, you're out on Friday, the quarterfinal Friday in the SEC tournament, and that really stinks to have that kind of performance. But with everything that's said and done, this Alabama basketball program is as healthy as it's ever been. I want to invite you once again, if you're watching us on Twitter, on YouTube, on Facebook, to participate in our BamaCentral Bracket Challenge. You can find it. It's my pinned tweet on Twitter right there at Joe Gaither 6, and it's my pinned, Facebook post on Facebook at Joe Gaither 6 as well. You can jump into our BamaCentral Bracket Challenge, see how smart you are against our man Blake Byler, against myself, Katie Wyndham, and others here at BamaCentral. Show off your skills. There's no prize at the end of the table, but there is no entry fee as well, so it's all for fun. We invite you to jump into the bracket challenge right there pinned to my tweet. It's ESPN, and then we will put that into the show story for today as well. Let's touch on the women's bracket before we go into spring football and before we finish with Alabama, a little bit of Coleman Coliseum thoughts. The women's bracket. Okay, let's see. NCAA women's bracket. Alabama earns a number 8 seed and gets to the NCAA tournament for the second year in a row. 3 out of 4 years, the Crimson Tide has now been to the tournament. And now what's that? That's the third or the fourth year in a row. Third year in a row with 20 wins or more. And look, I'm going to be hard on myself right here because have we covered the women's basketball program very much or very well? No, we haven't. But I think that I think that they're getting to there. I think they're getting there. They're almost there. Look, you start getting a little more noise in the tournament, make some now. I'm excited about them being in the tournament. They're playing Florida State. They're playing Florida State over in Austin, Texas. If you're not familiar with the women's bracket, basically the one seeds get to host a lot of the higher seeds get to host regionals. So they're going to play Florida State, and if they win, they get to play number one Texas over there in Austin. So it's a home game for Texas. Going to be a huge challenge for the Crimson Tide. But second year in a row, last year Alabama goes and loses in the first round of Baylor, right? Yeah, loses in the first round of Baylor. Then two years prior, they got to the second round and lost. But big congratulations. They finished well. They got an 8 seed. It's just a sign of continuing growth for the Alabama women's basketball program. Now they're playing on Saturday. I believe they're playing on Saturday against Florida State, and you'll be able to check them out on the ESPN family of networks. And we'll keep you covered right here at BamaCentral to see if they beat Florida State. I think they're going to be favored against Florida State. Florida State finished, 5th in the ACC. Alabama finished 4th in the SEC. And just like with every other conference, the SEC women's basketball is super strong, as evidence with South Carolina, the 1 seed, LSU, a 3 seed. I think you had Tennessee's in Alabama's bracket with a 6 seed. So really strong schedule, strong conference again for the SEC. So we'll just see how it goes and see how the ladies go. Look, you go out, you beat Florida State, you get over to Texas, and you just see if you can bloody their nose and hang in there with them. See if you can take the game late. See if you can take them into deeper water and get a big upset. That'd be awesome. That'd be amazing. We'll keep you covered right here on BamaCentral and BamaCentral.com for the women's tournament as well. All right, so let's get into spring football. Spring break is over, and we're getting back to the spring football field as Kalen DeBoer is welcoming the media back to the practice field this week. Let's look at our schedule here. Nothing today. It's Monday. Nothing today. Tuesday, no interviews. We got practice at 3:25. Nothing's going on for us. On Wednesday, you got pro day. Wednesday's going to be a lot of fun in the facility. You're going to have pro day. We're going to get to see Terry and Arnold for the last time. Really, we're going to get to see Kool-Aid McKinstry, J.C. Latham, really the who's who going to the draft. Chris Braswell and Dallas Turner as well, and get to have some interviews with those guys, see how their last couple of months have gone. Thursday, Coach DeBoer gets back in front of the podium. Now, what is our day? March 21st. Yeah, Thursday is our day to watch practice at 3:25. Thursday is our day to be back over there, so you're going to get a lot of video from us at BamaCentral.com and right there on my social media feeds at Joe Gaither 6 from me and from Katie and from Blake. It's going to be a lot of fun to be back in the facility on Thursday heavily watching practice again, and we'll get Coach Kalen DeBoer again. Nothing on Friday for the media, so you're not going to get a whole lot of coverage there. Saturday, we get to talk to defensive players and assistants in the morning, 11 o'clock. That's going to be fun. Wake up and go ahead and get it done. Talk to the defensive players and assistants. We talked to defensive players and assistants 2 weeks ago. It's going to be fun. I bet they send out a new set of 5 and a couple of different coaches to get to know on Saturday. So with that being said, what am I going to be looking for on Thursday? The last time we had spring practice and spring practice discussion or viewing period, we talked a lot about the defensive backfield. And so I want to circle back to that defensive backfield, but I want to talk about the other side as well, the wide receivers. Those are the 2 areas that let's start to kind of nail these down. You got a lot of question marks in both those areas, but also thankfully from the Alabama perspective, a lot of potential talent in those areas as well. So look, the defensive backfield is my favorite just because I played safety average, very averagely as an adolescent. So look, you got some answers from the first spring ball availability. Damani Jackson and Jaleel Hurley are lining up as your cornerback 1 and cornerback 2. And that shouldn't serve you as too much of a surprise, as Jaleel Hurley is really the only returning scholarship player with any experience from the year prior. Redshirt freshman, you lost everyone from that position group as far as experience to the transfer portal or to the NFL draft. you're going to have to rebuild that. And Jaleel Hurley obviously slides right in there. And he's partnered up with Damani Jackson, and that shouldn't surprise you at all either, as he is the 5-star cornerback. Look, he was considering Alabama before he went to USC, hit the transfer portal, and now he's with the Crimson Tide. He was imposing, physically imposing, really big corner going through the drills. Now, we only got to see 25 minutes worth of drills, but he was really, really imposing, standing with the rest of the guys. And then you talk about the 4-2-5. You're going to be finding lots of different roles for your Malachi Moores, your Tony Mitchells, your Devontae Smith, and Keon Sabb. I think those 4 are going to fill your back three positions, really. You got the 2, you got corner 1 and corner 2, but you got your back 3 positions that are going to be kind of versatile. And Devontae Smith probably playing really deep. Tony Mitchell and Malachi Moore kind of playing your slot guy, and then and Keon Sabb kind of doing it all. I think Keon Sabb's very, very talented. And so while I was worried about it going into spring practice, 2 weeks ago when we were first invited there. Thanks so much, Kalen DeBoer, for having us 2 weeks ago. I was nervous about what we would see. I feel a little bit better because of the physicality, the imposing nature. These guys are big. And not only that, I didn't even mention Jalen Mbakwe and Zay Mincy. Both those guys going through drills as well. This is a big group. And so if you get these guys all on the same page, physically speaking, I think that they're going to be just fine. It's going to be a matter of learning the defense, learning the terminology, and calling the same coverage at the same time. Everybody running the right coverage so they don't bust and leave anybody open. And with Malachi Moore in the back there, I'm feeling much more confident there. Malachi really getting everybody on the same page for the last couple of years and taking on that responsibility once again this year. Now, for the offensive side of the ball, I think this is where you got a lot of more question marks. The wide receiver room. You saw Jermaine Burton. He's in the NFL draft. He's going to be a pro day. Great. You saw Isaiah Bond hit the transfer portal, go over to Texas. Great. Enjoy yourself. Hook 'em horns. But you've got a lot of question marks in the wide receiver room, and how does it fall out? Now, look, all the excitement is on Ryan Williams. All the excitement is on Ryan Williams, the 2024 reclassified player coming from Saraland. He's not here yet. You're not going to see him. We're not going to see him at practice on Thursday. He's not enrolling until May 28th. May 28th is spring, is summer 1. So you got Kendrick Law, you got Jalen Hale, you got Jaron Hamilton, Kobe Prentice, Emmanuel Henderson, Jeremy Bernard, Cole Adams. You got a lot of guys out there, a lot of names out there. A lot of names, and then you look at the 2024 class, Ryan Williams, Amari Jefferson, Rico Scott, and Arian Bubba Hampton. Arian Hampton already on campus. Tons of names, tons of talent, but somebody's got to step up. You saw Kendrick Law really show himself as a gadget weapon this past year. Can he do it down in and down out? I think he's a really aggressive player. I think he's a player who plays on 10 all the time, and that's really, that's the first trait that you need. I think he plays on level 10 pretty much all the time. Can he be consistent running routes, making decisions in his route running, and catching the football in the open field? We've seen him with the ball in his hand, explosive, lots of fun. And I think that he is a dynamic weapon for this Alabama offense, and he's going to be right in there in that first wide receiver group. Jalen Hale was that guy, right? Caught the Ole Miss touchdown and made a couple of plays last year, and then not really after that. Was that a consistency issue? I think when you look at this next group, the Jalen Hales, the Jaron Hamilton group, and even the Emmanuel Henderson part of this group, you've got guys who are, we have talent. We don't know if you can do it down in and down out. And with the new wide receiver coach, Jamarcus Shepard, hopefully he'll be able to develop that consistency at a little bit higher level. Now, Kobe Prentice, I think you've seen a little bit more of that consistency. So as far as, look, if I am Kalen DeBoer and I'm rolling out the wide receivers right now today, which I'm not, and thankfully, thank the Lord for that, I'm throwing out probably Kobe Prentice, Kendrick Law, and Jalen Hale as my first 3. And then I'm saying Jaron Hamilton, Jeremy Bernard. Yeah, how do you forget about him? Shoot, idiot, dummy. Come on, Joe. Jeremy Bernard, the transferee from Washington, how is he going to fit in? Does he immediately slot in as wide receiver 1? Now, when I was at practice 2 weeks ago, I wasn't assigned to the wide receivers. I was assigned defensive line and running back, so I really didn't watch them, and they were on the opposite side of the field. How does Jeremy Bernard, his experience in the offense already, does he supplant Jalen Hale? Does he supplant Jaron Hamilton? And really and truly, does it allow Ryan Williams time to develop? He takes pressure off Ryan Williams. Ryan's going to come here in the summer, and you expect him to immediately be wide receiver one? I think that might be a little bit foolish. Do I think he's capable of becoming wide receiver one before the year is over? Yes. Yes, I do. I think he's that special. But with experience from Jeremy Bernard, I think that allows the rest of the room just a little bit of time to kind of acclimate to the offense. So really, I think that as you've gone through one spring practice week, and the media was allowed to see one spring practice and kind of gather questions and kind of dissect what we saw. And obviously, I read a lot of my colleagues' work, and I listened to a lot of my colleagues and coworkers right here at BamaCentral, what they saw at practice. I think our big question marks for the Alabama Crimson Tide are in the defensive backfield. How does everybody fit? And the wide receiver room, what is the rotation? Who becomes wide receiver one? Can somebody be that guy for Jalen Milroe, that guy that he can depend on? Look, I think Jermaine Burton did that some last year, but I'll be honest, I think Jermaine Burton was a bit oversold as Alabama's wide receiver one. Obviously, the Texas A&M game was incredible, and he ran great routes in that game and performed very, very well. But as far as consistency, down in, down out, week in and week out, I think Jermaine Burton left a little bit to be desired. And so you haven't really seen anybody fill that role since the John Mechie, Jamison Williams year. They obviously handled it amazingly. They obviously had great years together. But since that year, you haven't really had the wide receiver one that you can trust down in, down out. It's going to be a lot of fun. And I think that that's the biggest question for this Alabama offense as you kind of get into the passing game and get into this high-flying Kalen DeBoer offense. All right, so I got one more topic for us. It was a huge weekend. I got one more topic for us as it relates to Coleman Coliseum. And this is just a field topic, and of course, you're welcome to jump in and disagree or agree with me on the comment section at Joe Gaither 6 on all the social media machines. You can find us right there. Send me a comment, question, query, and complaint. I was in Bridgestone Arena this week. And look, obviously, Nate Oats got his new contract extension, and it made him one of the top five paid coaches in college basketball. And I am, as I said earlier, as a supporter of that and what it means for the Alabama basketball program. But you've got people, okay, what's next? The arena. Oh, build the arena. And I have been on the build the new arena side of the argument for a long time, and largely because selfish reasons. It's fun. It's cool. It'll be better. It'll be fun. It'll be easier to watch games. It'll be more modern. That sort of thing. It'll be louder. You'll get a good environment in there. But I was in Bridgestone Arena this past weekend, and Bridgestone, what? I don't know. What was its configuration? Bridgestone Arena capacity. Let's see what its capacity is listed at 20,000. All right, and that feels about right, depending on how it was configured. When Kentucky was in there on Friday night before Alabama, obviously Kentucky got in there. Their crowd got in there early, and when Kentucky took the floor, they raised and cheered, and they were involved in the game from the very beginning to the end of the game, which was what made Texas A&M's victory much more impressive to me, because there was only a tiny pocket of Texas A&M fans at 20,000 feet. 20,000. Look, you got to think about what's Coleman Coliseum. It's listed at 15. It's listed at 15, 14 and a half or so. When Coleman Coliseum was full this year for the Tennessee game, oh my gosh, it was incredibly loud. And Alabama fans got involved in that game better than they were involved in any game this year. When you had the ice storm, you had an ice storm for what? The Missouri? Was that Missouri or South Carolina that came into town? And they allowed the students to kind of overflow into other sections. You had a great environment a couple of times in Coleman Coliseum this year. And while a new arena would be fun, it would be modern. It would be sexy. It would be, cool. Is it necessary? Is it exactly what you need? Because here's the deal. I think that more so than a new arena, you have an outreach problem. You have a scheduling problem. You have a day of the game problem. And we've addressed that at different points of the year. We've addressed that we addressed that over Christmas break when you didn't have a good crowd. We addressed that you had the Arkansas game. The last day of the SEC season was the first day of spring break. Not necessarily a great crowd early, developed into a good crowd by the end of the first media timeout. There were different points where the crowd was amazing this year in Coleman Coliseum, and points where it wasn't. It's more so about getting butts in the seats and getting them engaged into the game. And I think that Alabama, over the course of the last 5 years, has done that. My desire is to have the fan base be like Kentucky's fan base, involved in every moment. When Go Big Blue was ranting out in Bridgestone Arena, Kentucky was rallying. What was my complaint about Alabama? They haven't really made good rallies against quality competition. Texas A&M held off a lot of good rallies. And while Kentucky didn't really have it on the defensive side of the floor because of Wade Taylor and Boots Radford, they had great games. The fan base was into it. And I thought, wow, Alabama could be this. And they're getting to that place. Nate Oats is getting them to that consistency level. It's just going to take more time. It's just going to take more tournament appearances. It really is going to take, if you crack that Sweet 16, which can be done. I think Coleman is a great place to play basketball. And maybe I'm just now nostalgic because I watched basketball there as a college student, and I've watched basketball there as a journalist now, and I just enjoy being there, and it's only 10 minutes away. Look, the new arena is going to be right there close to my house as well. But the ticket prices, you downsize your arena for a brand new place. You go to what, 9 or 10,000. Your tickets prices are gonna inevitably go up. Obviously, I would love the reconfiguration that people have teased, move the students closer to the floor. But couldn't you do that in Coleman somehow, some way? I don't know if the urgency necessarily has to be there as much as maybe the voice on Twitter, the fan base on Twitter. Oh, we need the arena tomorrow. Put shovel in the dirt tomorrow. Let's get it done. I think really it's about engagement. The more you engage the Alabama fan base, of course, you'll still hear the cries for a new arena, the begging for a new arena, and you will eventually get to a point where you can't ignore it, and it has to be done. But for now, for the next 4 years that Nate Oats is here, as you continue to build the program, continue to recruit All-Americans, pour money into the NIL fund, pour money into really the resources that Nate Oats is using, while the arena is the big prize, I think it's about engaging the fan base further, educating, continuing the education that, hey, a 4 seed in the NCAA tournament is not a failure of a year. Obviously, you don't want to go out on the Friday of the SEC tournament, but does that make it a failure? It's not a failure of a basketball season. Is there a little disappointment? Sure. And I think that's okay to feel. But no, the basketball program is as healthy as it's been. And I think the trajectory is as good as it's going to be, as good as it's been as well. And so continue to have faith in that trajectory. You're going to get the crowds into Coleman Coliseum on a more consistent basis. You look at the attendance numbers that are really, really good for Alabama throughout the entire year as it compares to the conference. And so maybe I'm reconsidering my desperation, my position that a new basketball arena is the next step for this program, is the next thing for this. I mean, sure, is it the next step? I think it is, but is the need to do it this summer, to get started on it, in 3 weeks and 6 weeks tomorrow? I don't think it is. It's as urgent as maybe the fan base on Twitter might let you know, and maybe I have backed off my sense of urgency as well as I've seen some of the environments in Coleman Coliseum develop over the last. I mean, look. When Baylor was in here, was in Coleman Coliseum. When Houston was came to Coleman Coliseum, the place got absolutely insane. So just gonna have to continue to create these memories in the Alabama fan base, restore the memories that, oh man, it was like this, and when Coach Sanderson was here, restore those memories, create those memories, and continue to build off yourself, build the momentum. And we'll see if they build any momentum this week. Will a first round exit do it? Absolutely. Absolutely not. But a Sweet 16 visit might be awesome. I mean, you put that 2024 under the Sweet 16 banner, and then you roll the dice and see what you do against North Carolina, Mississippi State, or Michigan State in the Sweet 16 round next weekend. So it's going to be a lot of fun this week. We'll cover the NCAA tournament. We'll cover spring football practice. We'll cover the transfer portal a little bit. Oh my gosh, gross. Look, before we leave, how can you expect any coaches? You've got the Alabama 3 assistant coaches, and Austin Claunch is going to be the coach at UTSA, Texas San Antonio. He's going to stay on staff for the next couple of weeks until the season's over, and that's great. But how can you expect the guys to fully focus on the three teams in the pod, Charleston, St. Mary's, and Grand Canyon, when the transfer portal opened today? What are you supposed to do? Are you supposed to go to Grant Nelson and say, hey, man, are you coming back or not if we win or lose? Dude, things are going to change in the next 3 weeks with this team. Things might change this weekend with this team. But the transfer portal opening today is absurd, absolutely insane. Why did Ole Miss opt out of the NIT? To go ahead and start roster managing. And how much hooey is that? Oh, my God. I think that's a load of hooey. What is from an Alabama perspective, just purely from an Alabama perspective, does Nate Oats and his staff just punt on having those discussions until you're eliminated, and then you are 3 weeks behind, or 10 days behind, or 4 days behind? If Alabama loses on Friday, okay, that stinks. But you're 5 days behind on the transfer portal at that point, if you choose to neglect it now, or do you balance the transfer portal and preparation with the NCAA tournament? How is that fair? How is that fair to the 68 teams in the field? It's not fair. It's not fair, and it's not just an Alabama problem. It's an every team in the field problem. It's every team in the NIT problem. It's everybody who opted out of the NIT to instead ravage the transfer portal. St. John's doing the same thing. It's wrong. It's absolutely it's wrong for the players. Look, from an Alabama perspective, it's wrong for the 13 scholarship players in the roster. How do you go to any of them and say, well, we need to start roster managing. I know the season's not over. I know we could make a Final Four run, or I know we could go out on Friday. Oh my gosh, how do you have those conversations? NCAA, this is an area that you have messed up. And when you want to get control of the NIL, you have to address the transfer portal. It's not right. It's not right to make programs choose between playing in the NIT or roster managing. It's not right at all. It's not right to make assistant coaches balance game preparation in the NCAA tournament and roster management in the transfer portal, scouting in the transfer portal. Because I'm sure you get Billy basketball player coming across your desk. Hey, Billy basketball player's in the transfer portal. We need to look at his tape, see if he's going to be a fit. Oh, and we have to prepare for Grand Canyon, Charleston, and St. Mary's. How much hooey is that? Now, I think that Alabama's in a pretty fine place with roster management, because you kind of have a good feel of who's coming and who's going and how many spots you have available, and it's not that many. But let's say the perfect fit jumped into the transfer portal today. Well, just hypothetically, Billy basketball player is the perfect fit for your program, but you're focused on the NCAA tournament, and Billy basketball player goes to your rival, or goes to, one of your conference rivals that didn't make the tournament. It's a load of hooey, and the NCAA needs to fix it. So that's my soapbox for the moment. We're going to get out of here for this Monday. You follow us at Joe Gaither 6 on all your social media machines. You subscribe to the Joe Gaither Show on BamaCentral, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and on Amazon. We appreciate you so much. Tell a friend about the show. Let's get excited about the NCAA tournament. Jump into our bracket challenge. It's right there on my Twitter and on my Facebook. See how smart you are against our BamaCentral staff right there on the Joe Gaither Show on BamaCentral and BamaCentral.com.